Across Europe, the testing and monitoring of parasites in our flocks and herds is important for maintaining the sustainability and profitability of our farms, as well as improving the health and welfare of our animals. All livestock farmers should routinely monitor and control roundworm and liver fluke in their sheep and cattle, as well as test for anthelmintic efficacy. These can all be done quite easily on your farm. Regular monitoring is recommended to improve productivity and efficiency, maintain good animal health and welfare, identify issues before they become a real problem, reduce wastage, help generate a risk map for future decision-making, reduce the carbon footprint of your animals, and maintain the effectiveness of treatments for your animals now and in the future. One option for roundworms is to monitor the live weight gain of animals. In cattle, we also have blood and milk tests available. For fluke monitoring, we have a coproantigen test and a blood test. Blood testing young stock for fluke early in the season is a very useful indicator of fluke risk. For cattle, there is also the bulk milk tank test. However, currently the most routinely used monitoring tool for roundworms and liver fluke is the fecal egg count, or FEC, which is an easy, quick and inexpensive test to perform. Collecting samples for FECs could not be simpler. Samples can be collected when you are checking grazing animals or when animals are at housing. Pick up 10 individual fresh samples from sheep or cattle in a group when you are checking on them. The only thing to remember is that you need more poo from cattle compared to sheep. Many farmers like to perform the worm and fluke FECs themselves. It is not particularly difficult and doesn't require much expensive equipment, just a decent microscope, a bit of knowledge and some patience. Fluke and roundworm tests are slightly different. For fluke eggs, you sink them in water, whereas roundworm eggs are floated in a saturated salt solution. Alternatively, your vet practice will be able to do this for you, or will send it to a commercial diagnostic laboratory for testing. To save money, ask your vet or testing lab about pooling these samples into one for a composite test, also known as mob testing. Fecal egg counts can tell us about roundworm and fluke infections, if parasites are the cause of any problems, which animals to treat, which treatments have worked and which ones haven't, and if there are other pathogens present, like coccidia for example. Regular monitoring can be very useful for identifying what is normal on your farm, for parasite risk mapping, and to generate a baseline for the future. For roundworm, year-round FEC monitoring in sheep is important, as roundworm can cause problems in your animals at any time of the year, particularly whilst they are grazing. In cattle, it is generally first-season grazing calves that need monitoring, but adult cattle can also suffer production losses and could be monitored via a bulk milk tank test. For fluke, FEC monitoring on grazing animals of any age will be most beneficial later in the season, ranging from autumn through winter to early spring, when fluke will most likely be egg-laying adults. Housing offers another opportunity for monitoring your animals, especially cattle. If routine monitoring is not feasible, then testing drug efficacy to find out whether a treatment has worked or not is vitally important, and one of the most useful tests you can do. This applies equally to sheep and cattle, and to worms and fluke. The most informative way to find out how an anthelmintic is working is to carry out a fecal egg count reduction test. This involves testing animals on the day of treatment, and again a set number of days after treatment, depending on the product used. Any eggs present after treatment suggests it has not been fully effective. If this is not practical, the next best option is to just test after using an anthelmintic. This is known as a post-drench check and can indicate a possible problem that requires proper investigation. Of course, it's important to remember that if you're only testing after using an anthelmintic, then a 0 egg count may be because your animals didn't have an egg count to begin with and may not have needed to be treated. Efficacy testing is especially important when giving treatment to new or returning livestock. These animals must be quarantined until the recommended treatment and testing has been completed and shown to have worked. You really do not want to bring resistant parasites onto your farm. Are your young stock taking longer to finish or requiring more concentrates at the end of the season? It may be parasites causing the problem. So, test, don't guess. Fecal egg counting is an easy and cheap way to test. Developing and implementing a roundworm and fluke control plan, which includes the use of effective monitoring tools, can save you money and improve the health, welfare and productivity of your animals. It will also prolong the effectiveness of treatments for your animals now and for the future. To find out more, please visit the Moredun and COMBAR websites.